Good evening and welcome to another in the series of TalkSports, where we get to speak to the movers and shakers of sports, whether they're past, whether they are current, or even in the future prospects. But this evening, we have no other than a legend, as he will, well, not he will say it, but others will probably say that in itself. He has blazed the tracks years gone by, known specifically as a sprinter and a jumper, long jumper. And in those days, he terrorizes, the likes of his counterparts from the GBSS, the Presentation Brothers College, McDonald College, all over. He was a terror on the track. No other than the great Eugene Licorish. Good evening to you, Eugene Licorish, formerly of the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School, SAS, and on his debut, his first time doing a public interview since, he says, the mid-1990s. That's probably in excess of 30 years or more. Good evening to you, Eugene.
Good afternoon, everyone. And most of all, good afternoon straight to God, most of all, and to Mr. Michael and everyone out there who for bringing me on his program this afternoon to
Mhm.
talk sports.
well, when we talk sports, we talk track and field. We talk about Eugene Licorish. Eugene, let's go on and talk about how things have been going with you, Eugene, with the pandemic, how you have been keeping yourself and ensuring that you remain healthy and alive.
Well, it's hectic, but you have to enjoy. You have to put yourself out there. And with reference, I've been healthy for during the pandemic, working, doing as much as I could to help. Praise to God and my family, who is basically okay.
Okay, well, that's nice to hear of you, Licorice, and I thank you once again for agreeing to be part of the program. I know it's the first time a lot of folks seeing you in a long time, and those who have heard about you seeing you for the first time.
Yeah.
So, welcome once again, Eugene, and let's talk about. I'm getting into it very early. How you got involved in track and field, Eugene?
My involvement in track and field was at a very early age, just being mischievous. I went to the park one afternoon, and the guys were not unknowingly the guys were doing trials for the St. Andrews sports team. And while they were jumping, I just ran and I sneaked in a jump and ran home. That afternoon, the principal, that was the time he was named Mr. Andrew, very good with his name. He came to my father and he was like, I need to talk to your son. He's good, and I need him to compete for the school. And that's how I basically started, not even knowing what I was doing.
And that particularly at a very early age, Eugene.
I was approximately like 11, 12. And what made it exciting is that those guys I had beat that day was actually the seniors, you know, and I was way ahead of them. At that time, had no interest in participating in sports. I just like doing everything.
Mhm. And you know, well, we'll get on to that. Let me just think. So, primary school. Let's talk about primary school. So, very early age, um, and you're talking about that as early in your formative years at the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School. But what's about the primary school? Did anyone saw the Eugene Licorice as an athlete or some level of competitiveness from Eugene?
No, at the private school level, I was catching serious beat down. Cause there were guys like Livingston, Nelson. There were it was Livingston. There was other guy like Leroy from Moon. That other guys around at that time who were tearing it up. And there were when we came to there was the guy Blessdale. I think he died a few years ago in a motorcycle accident. He was there tearing it up. I was coming like third, sometime a little fourth. You know?
All right. So you got into SAS. They saw some potential in Eugene Licorice. Tell me what it was like um, training as an athlete in those days, preparing for competition?
Well, that situation is different because first I started up in St. Joseph Convent, Grenville, where I did my first intercall. At that time, we were at least about 8 of us at the school at guys at the time, and we decided to compete. So I was competing for convent at that time. Tearing up, I won. I think I won the long jump. I became second in the 100. So the next year, we decided to combine our activities with combine myself with SAS and transfer over to become a formidable team so we could defeat the GBSS every year.
So I'm getting the impression that you were inspired
Yeah.
to beat the GBSS at the time. So it's
At that time, it was a matter of pride.
Mhm.
Country foolishness that we do up to today. And it was a matter of self-interest, self-pride, representation. Because remember the year before they had guys like St. Patrick Simmons, Orlando. He had other guys like Gaidan. Most of the guys I remember through their nickname. And those were guys who had dominated the track. I remember the guys like Orlando competing, Walter Simmons known, competing against guys like Evans Maitland, and looking at those two guys on the track, and you're young and you're looking at it like, okay, I gotta beat them one day.
so so there was some level of inspiration for Eugene and others. But on a serious note though, but what it was apart from that inspiration to compete and to be among the winners in terms of your training and all of that, there was some.
Training it was always exciting
Uh,
because it was an opportunity for me to get out of the house, get into the park, just run. Because running at that stage of my life, I was just like, it made me feel happy. I became stronger when I run. The more I run, the more I feel better. So it was on a Sunday morning, remembering days like guys like Bonner James Shaka, he's a police officer at the moment, with my good friend Godric Taylor. With morning time, we would leave and go up to, there was a part of the back of the airport named Simon, name was Big Bay. Where the sun, when you step into the sun, you go down at least about 6 inches. That's just our routine every Sunday morning. And most of the time, just go run on the beach again. It was a matter the strength training at that time. It was, you look at the books, you look at television, and remember those days you had guys like Carl Lewis. I remember even growing up, even adapting his straight arm style of just trying to move. You just copy and you learn from everyone you see.
mhm. All right. I was just looking at a comment there from Sekou, who is saying that you a living legend and from a family of athletes. And I recall speaking to you once, and you made mention of your siblings, your sisters rather, who
Well,
also competed.
it started with all of my sisters, from Claudia, Betty, and June. They all competed. Most of all, my first Claudia, I remember days when they competed for convent in Grenville. And they would get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and go to the park and run and come back, get ready for school. And I wasn't even moving. I was just looking at them and watching, and they were good. And my sister Betty, because at that time we just made with the CAC games, we went to Barbados. And at that time I was not so hot in the track. I was just winning. I only qualified. And she won the high jump. And it was like, wow, my sister won the high jump. I didn't get a medal.
Yeah. So the sisters were competing. Eugene also was inspired. So let's go. There were so many things that inspired you because you spoke
Well,
about the likes of the Carl Lewis and others. You spoke about seeing the likes of the Maitland and others from the GBSS, the PBC, and other schools competing. And then you also had your sisters who sort of were also in sports and basically inspired you as well.
Yeah, that's the idea, and because it was more of what you would refer to as fun. It was the like there were stiff competition between Livingston and I. Every event we competed in was determined either by my head or his chest or by an arm. So every event, even during the heat, every time we compete together, it was always exciting, and you gain friendship. For instance, we moved down the first year. I remember we came to Intercol, and I was really scared. And I look around and you see all the other guys, and you're getting ready to run, and GBSS, SAS. Like for instance, that first race, I remember it was like we started up in the 100, and I ran out, and I was like, "Oh, am I really going too fast?" So it was exciting at those times. So it was more of sprinting, running. The competition is great, and I love competition.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned, intercall and competing, especially in the 100 meters. But at the same time, I understood, or not just understood, but that Eugene yourself was a jumper. And in fact, jumping took you to the
Well,
Olympics. Mm.
that jump, where I was a police officer when I really got recognized as a jumper. We traveled through the islands competing in Police Week games. For instance, that year we went to Trinidad. It was a Police Week at the barracks. They have it. And then the police officer said, "Well, okay, guys, you're looking good. But we have the invitation games at the stadium. You could get in there and compete." I was like, "Okay, it's competition. Let's go tonight." It was at that time. It was Trevor Modest, and I, Corporal Dixon. We were all competing, which I do, which is which was good at the time. So went to the stadium. First time we looking at the synthetic track at the time. That was my second time competing on a synthetic track. We were in the long jump. There was that guy Wendell Williams from Trinidad. Remember him? He's a long jumper soldier at that time. And that competition where we were jumping, where I made my first. I usually win small jumps, 780, something, which was just winning. Then it was the first. We had the first three jumps, then they have the second three jumps. We came in. I made the first jump, went up to 784, and stopped. I thought I had already won. Sat while and showing off, smiling. Came on to the third round. Then Wendell came and he jumped 790. I came back on the second round and I jumped 770. Wendell came out and he jumped 794. So I came back on the third round and I put like almost everything into it. When you jump and you practically feel yourself floating for a while, the hang time was great. So I knew I made a big jump. Came down, everyone from the stadium ran over, started to run over because it was like, wow, this is a big jump. Measured, it was 8 point something meters, one of the longest jumps seen in that around that hemisphere at the time. Came in, and that's where I really started to feel more interested in getting into track and train harder.
Mhm. So track and field, as we says, but you move from the actual track, where basically most people had recognized your traits, because obviously from the intercall exploits. And then at some point in time, you participated in a number of those regional meets and you were considered among the fastest in the OECS. But let's zoom in a little bit on the rivalry, especially at the intercall. I'm certain you will remember a particular name. The name is that of, let me see, if you can see on my screen there now. Could you remember this photo finish?
it's a little blurry, but
Right. It's not of the best quality because it was way back when. In fact, it was 1983 at the old.
oh, that was that kid from GBSS, right? What's
Well,
his name?
well, he's no longer.
Kenneth
That is Kenneth Alexander, the photo
Kenneth
finish,
Alexander.
where you beat him
That,
on the line in 1983 at the old Queen's Park. Intercol men's 100 meters. Back then, 1983. Intercol 1983. There is Eugene Licorish beating Kenneth Alexander of the GBSS at the tape.
that race I had actually started that race, stopped and start again. Because that race, I remember that race. That race was started by one of the soldiers at the time, the peacekeeping soldiers at the time. He had started that race with a 45. I remember that race. So everyone was practically, when he fell, everyone was shocked. But the race started. I jumped out the gun. Same idea of been thinking I probably false start. Oh, he had fired twice, so I had stopped. Then everyone passed. So there was kind of like run, Eugene, and I just had to come back, and I actually nicked him on the tape and won the race.
Mhm.
It was a very exciting race.
So, and I think you can, well, as you're doing now, remembering those close encounters, as we call it, finishes, the rivalry among the
Oh,
guys.
that
Mm.
rivalry, not to cut you, but that rivalry was great because they were very. The highlight of most of that events used to be the 4x1 or the 4x1 on the first day, set 4x4 on the second day. Because back in those days, remember we used to have 2 days, you know,
Mm.
and one day where you come down and you would actually do all the events. Because back in those days, I did the one, the two, the four, the long, the high, the 4x1, the 4x4, and in most of those events you had to do heats. So for the whole day you were just competing. And the
So
final event,
you said the 4x4. You also was a
yeah,
member of the 4x4 team.
I
Okay.
actually I actually was the starter for every 4x4 event because our belief at that time that if we have a good start and we have the best person out in front, we will actually set a distance. Because as long as we get out in front, there was no way you would be able to touch us. So no matter if our second leg was semi good, and then our second the good thing about it, but our second leg at that time was Carl Vinson. He also turned it on. So by the time we get down to Orville and we get down to Livingston, who is just gonna clean it right up. So by the time we're finishing, we practically were about to lap somebody.
Very interesting indeed. I'm sorry about that, but I'm just being absorbed by the information that you providing
Yeah,
there.
and Michael, if you would remember that those days, the final event was practically run almost in the night. So
Yeah, yeah,
basically, what you would be seeing is just the heads of guys going up and down. If you're looking at,
yeah. And I guess all that was part of the fun, right?
well, it was part of the fun. It was part of at least you get an opportunity as a kid to at least be out late.
Mhm. And you talk about the rivalry, and I understood for a period of time, yourself and others remained friends with even those who you competed against in
Oh well,
at school.
those are some of the best friendships. You know, those are some of the best friendships I have made. You remember you come down, you get to meet guys like Goatee, Conrad, Vida, Dandarat, Mr. Gibbs, the Mr. Clouden, who used to be the official starter back in those times. Then on the track, you meet the best friends you would have right from there. Ken, Zoosh, Ken Palmer, Zoosh. We had Daniel Dubisset. And for instance, friendship that carry on up to today, for instance, the friendship with Livingston and I, even though at every event we were like this, it still carry on up to date. It's a blessing to for everything that happened.
Yeah, well, you mentioned the name Livingston. We were hoping that Livingston would have joined us, but I believe that Livingston is somewhere.
He should be somewhere around. I know he's somewhere around listening. Trust me.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. Because Yeah, because he just gave a comment there, I think. Yeah, he just gave a comment there.
And that's him right now. I know
Yeah,
he's somewhere around.
at that time, the race was started by one of the soldiers from Jamaica. It was a big false start, and that is why I was not in the photo. Eugene did not just stop. He left out last because it was a big false start. Okay, so it was a false start, and then they didn't recall the games. I mean, they didn't recall the start, so they asked you to
No, they
go,
did not.
and they asked
Everybody
you,
stopped.
yeah,
Everybody was gone because Ken was way out in front. I remember when I looked down, he was like gone. So
yeah. Well,
it was,
let's
yeah,
put it
that was
back
the
up for,
finish, man. It
let's put
was,
it back up for folks to see. And as Livingston is saying, he's not actually in the photo, so we can understand. And it appears, as you said, it was the meat of the, well, one of, because normally the last event would have been the and this would have been, June sunlight, even though it's not the best photo, but again
so
into
that
the
race
archive.
at that time was approximately about 3:30 in the afternoon because at the morning we had finished all the heats. By the time we get up to the finals, we estimated 3, 4 o'clock.
Mhm.
Get
Yeah.
onto the finals at the 100.
Right. Yeah. It's a pity we cannot see the likes of the others, but in those days we have to appreciate what we can.
Well,
Um,
let's just say they were far behind.
I don't think Livingston would like to hear that. Yeah. But no, but it's very interesting because I have another one I need to put up. And if you can tell me who are the competitors here, left to right. I think it's sort of okay for now from left to right in that photo there.
From left to right, from my left, looking at the screen, you will get the first Stephen Nelson. That's Stephen Nelson, and the second person it should be me. Then you will get Livingston, and then you'll probably get Orville Roberts.
Okay. So we can locate both Eugene Licorish and Livingston Nelson. Tell us about Roberts and the other one, Nelson.
Well, those guys at those times, those guys were pretty good, but because if we needed someone to fill in for any part of any event, they were efficiently effective. For instance, if we needed Orville to fill in a sec, he usually, if Carl is doing the triple jump at the moment, Orville will finish in, or you'll get Steven to finish the third leg, and then those guys were actually as efficient as us. Just that sometimes we win.
Okay. Uh, Glad to see that. And I'm just looking at it, continue to look at it, and for folks to see that was a formidable 4x100 or 4x4. That's the 4x4,
The
4x1.
team comprised, we were all rounders because you will get the same guys doing the 4x1 as the same guys doing the 4x4.
Okay. And it appears that was a photo taken at the school.
Yeah, that's when usually at the school afterwards we would have
Yeah.
like an after intercourse celebration.
Right. With the
So
trophies and the guys with their medals, everything there,
yeah,
right?
guys would come and show off what they got because at that time it was like everyone would have a medal at that time.
Yeah. Just before we move off that picture is something that guys may want to know about. We'll move off it soon, but why it is at that time these guys were so huge. I mean, look at the muscles, look at the and it was something I think that used to be a talking point, I should say,
Well,
among
it's the,
you
well
know
as you say, country people, breadfruit, saltfish, banana, we good to go. Well, back in the day, back in the day that's what was steroids. Good food, fresh food.
and it was almost like a taboo, if I should say that, when it comes to the guys coming up to compete, especially the guys, there will be, wow, it's like, wow, when you compare, because it used to be a situation where not so much the athletes, but the spectators, the students themselves
Well, you have to
looking
remember,
and comparing,
you have to remember in every competition is always going to guide. The spectators are always going to have argumentative points. Because, for instance, you had to be in school, we all was the same age, and probably most of us, we were practically much younger than most of the guys from the city.
Okay. All right. So let's get some of the comments in. Let me see. Neil Wells says, I had the pleasure of touring with Eugene as part of the Royal Grenada Police Force team throughout the Caribbean. Thought me to run the 200 meters bend for a few days so we can win the 4x1 at national champs. Obviously, yeah. In those days, police had a very good, track and field team.
Well,
Participate.
what we could say as, for instance, well, thank you, Neil, and I appreciate the time that we spent together as police officers and competing actually in the national level for the police team. Because when we compete as police officers, each one had a task to do. So, for instance, it was a matter of okay, the police. Nobody wants to be. Everybody wants to be the police. So we have to win.
Okay, that's good to know. Let's continue with Jerry Hopkins saluting one of Grenada's finest all-time athletes, Eugene Licorish, in all caps. Let's see. Yeah, we have some more. Nelson is saying it was quite surprising that Eugene even won that race since Ken and others were way ahead, as he, yes, did indicated that. And then Jerry is saying, that's Hopkins. Michael Bascom, thank you for bringing Eugene Licorish out of the archive. I trust that this would spark other beneficial engagements, which will allow Eugene to share some of his wealth of experience to younger Caribbean athletes. What say you, Eugene?
Well, I should say thanks to Jerry. He has always been my friend, always from even because I remember Jerry, we growing up together being acolytes in the convent. We were in the church together, practically knowing. So that's how far back Jerry and I has gone. And with reference to sharing the knowledge and being, I appreciate you for being given the opportunity to come back out and share my knowledge and my experiences with the young nation, with the younger folks, and to be able to help as much as I could.
Good to know. Jacqueline Smith cannot forget that 400 meters at SAS Sports that gave him that record while fighting for that champ. That record stood a long time. I assume probably Aline Francisco would have broken that record. 400
Well,
meters at SAS Sports.
well, that's I remember. For instance, besides that, thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you. For instance, at that games, I remember. For instance, there were one event whereby the last year Livingston and I were in school. It had it came down to winning the 800 meters. Never did an 800 meters in my ever. And I had to compete to at least to get 1 point to defeat Livingston in order to win the Victor Rodorium. We came to, and that 800 actually, there was, I think I broke the record. I think that record is still there.
Mm, it's interesting. It's
Because
interesting. Let's go to another comment. Seku is saying, the OGM, original Grenville man, affectionately called Eugene Papa. He has always been a role model both on and off the track. Papa?
well, yeah, I got the Papa from, I was called Papa maybe from since I was 10 years of age because I usually call my father Papa, and then it became like Papa son, and then going through all the years, I was called Papa up to today.
Mm, yeah. In 1992, if I'm correct, you had the opportunity to be the flag bearer, to represent Grenada at the Summer Olympics in Barcelona. Let's talk about the experience. First of all, as a flag bearer, and then competing in the Olympics. Competing in the Olympics is always an honor. So let's talk about being the flag bearer and also competing at the Olympics, Barcelona.
I would say thanks for being given the opportunity for being the flag bearer for my country at the 92 Olympics in Barcelona. That experience has stayed with me up to this very moment. Walking out into the stadium with the flag in my hand and practically hearing the screams of everyone. It's like thousands of people screaming. and you're walking around representing with the flag, and you know the camera is on you. You're represented as a police officer at that time, and also in national pride came through. Experience is great, which when I look at the kids today from competing, and I usually see myself in their shoes,
Mhm.
competing at that in that games at that level. Because at that time I just came from jumping that 8 point meters in Trinidad, which at that time had qualified me for competing into the in the Olympic as a competitor, jumping against likes of Carl Lewis, guys that you grew up with, actually imitating. It's it's an experience that stays with me up to today.
Yeah, well, just to add to that, it was 8.09 meters actually. That was your best jump.
Well,
In actually, it was in May of 1989 in Port of Spain. It remained a Grenadian record, I think, for quite a while. Eh?
well, well, practically, I think it's probably still there, but
Well,
that was the kicks about it because after you did that in Trinidad, you had to come back at that time to prove yourself because you can't just jump 8 meters once and never do it again for the rest of your life. You
mhm.
know, so every opportunity I get, because I remember there were games in Barbados, also a police games where I did 802. There were two games actually in where we had it was the national champs where I did at 8 meters. I think it was 8 meters flat, and that made me confident to the fact that that 8 meters was not really a fluke, but my steady competition.
Oh, wow, that's good. Good to hear that. Well, let's just get a couple comments again. Well, actually, Jacqueline came back to say it was actually the 800 meters she was speaking about, and
Yeah,
then and
Jackie.
then Hazel Regis Buckles, you know her as Hazel and Regis. She actually said that you inspired me. So um, thanks so much to Eugene. I guess the people like the Hazel and Regis and the likes of the Kirani and the Aline and those who came after you
Well,
obviously saw something in you in terms about your seriousness, your dedication, your commitment.
it's thanks, and that's also that because I remember the time we compete, and after the medal ceremony, I would just give away my medals and my trophy to the kids around because they will all be like, "Would they like it?" on this? I give it to him. So then everyone would stand and look and wait. Okay, you're just gonna give me his medal.
So it was actually like a giveaway at times.
Yeah, and I actually used to like doing it because you see everyone come around and you be like, okay,
Yeah,
you can have this because I have already won the race.
yeah, yeah,
This
yeah.
was most important.
Well, so let's get some more. Rupert Blatch is saying, good to see you, Eugene Licorish, aka Papa. Well,
Hey,
obviously,
hey, Flashy.
so it was Papa, as Blashy is saying, it was Papa, therefore. And Andy Noel, hey Eugene, blessing my brother. And Jacqueline Smith is saying something here now. Let them know the good years of basketball in the Market Square in Grenville. Star player as well, a well-rounded athlete, did his nation well. Eugene, let's talk about that. Basketball as well.
Yeah, I played basketball. It's that time we had, when we had Patrick, when Ulrich Schoon, those guys, and then you look at Tricks at that time. Tricks of them were much bigger at the time. They were bigger, and you competing against them. And at that time, the market we used to play, well, the guys used to be selling the coals, the black, the coal. So we were all black by the time the game is done.
So, as Jacqueline is saying, well-rounded athlete.
Well, the wrongness because it's enjoyable because when I go to I had two different. My grandmother lives close to the market, so when I go to the market, I would play basketball, and when I'm close to home, I go to the park and run. So it was the same guys that you'll be able to meet because you go to the market, and basketball competition in those days was very competitive. We had the likes of the guys from my area, the lane. Then we had the guys from the guy Subies. They had Schoon from Maki. And there were various teams, and we would compete against each other, which was nice. I
Okay.
never consider myself a basketball player. I just that's I played football too. For instance, I played football for school. You know, I was banned for not to don't touch the ball anymore. But that's another story.
All right. Well, in terms of giving away the medals, he's sort of saying, I gave away my medals as well. It inspired other kids, you know, and I assume.
And you actually feel good doing it because you see the smile on their face and the appreciation for everything, you know.
Mhm. Yeah. And what's about Eugene almost jumped out the pit in '93 at police games in Barbados? Let's talk about that. Seems to be some things that you see, Eugene, you haven't spoken since then, 1994. So I know it will take a while for you to warm up and get things out, you know, but we still have some time within that. So let's talk a bit about. I know you're one of a number of people I've spoken to who seems to be still conservative about their willingness to speak and to express and even at times to, you know, self-praise, you know. But here's the opportunity because I think it inspires others, and there for some others it refreshes their memories, you know. So let's talk about the police games.
I didn't hear it too clearly. Could you repeat a little for me, my friend?
No, he was basically speaking about the when in 1993 the police games in Barbados, and I think when he spoke about jumping on the pit, and I'm saying these are things that you haven't spoken about in a while.
I remember growing, you know, we started up from doing the high jump in the park, and we had the sun as the cushion. And I remember the first time I jumped on the pit was in the park home in Grenville because they had the boat and Claudius George, who was at the time the groundskeeper, he was like, "Okay, dude, I will have to bring the boat back because you keep jumping out the pit, you know." So I tried to make it an effort every time I jumped to get out to see if I could jump on the pit. And even though I was injuring myself at the time, which was exciting.
Um, Eugene, do you still have your bronze medal from the Carifta Games in 1983?
No,
Or,
I
or
gave
is
away
it?
everything.
I was just about if it's one of the medals. One of the medals you
Actually,
gave away.
I left when I left most of my stuff home, and I gave I gave away more because the trophies I usually won from the regional competition and going. What I would do at sometimes during the year, I would gather and give every school in the area. I'll give Granville Sec 3, give Convent 3, give SAS 3, or whatever I have to at least to help.
Okay. So it
So
was.
unfortunately, I don't have too much of the memorabilia. I just have the name.
Okay. Well, and if I can just let folks know that it was in the 1983 Carifta Games in where it was. I think it would have been in Martinique. Was it Martinique? But you are among the medalists for Grenada. In the long jump, you won the bronze medal, and it was in the under 20 boys under 20. Because yeah, in the boys under 20, that same year, I think it's when Jacinta won the gold in the female for the girls in
Oh,
the
she was.
yeah.
I remember as you say during the intercall day with my friend Jacinta. They used to call like I remember the girls everybody was singing the bomber coming down when she used to be coming down the girls everybody was singing the bomber coming down. Those were the days because it was Convent and St. George's that was the champions for the girls dominating. As reference, yeah, I remember the girls from St. David's who were pretty good at the same time too.
Oh, okay, right. Well, that's quite interesting because it's while it wasn't a medal feast for Grenada in the boys under 20 category. That's back in 1983 in terms of medals. Yes, you won Grenada's only medal in the under 20 category, the boys under 20 categories. That is in the long jump, 7.15 meters. Joey Wells of the Bahamas won the gold. Lyndon Sands, also of the Bahamas, the silver. And then in the female, the under 20, the only medalist for Grenada was Jacinta Bartholomew in the girls under 20 category, 5.88 meters, and she won that gold medal. In the boys under 17, we have not heard about Kenwyn Williams for quite a while. He won actually.
Oh, Mr. Busy.
Right, the javelin of that time it was what 45 something. You're throwing 45 and 46, and you could win the goal easily. You can't do that now. But 45.30 meters, and that is the 700 grams. Okay, and he won the gold medal for Grenada in the under 17, and then in the under 17 girls, Charmaine Hood. She actually, in the 1500 meters, she picked up a bronze medal for Grenada. So 1983, coming on.
Well, those were the years. Those were the years when actually Grenada started to be the forefront of track and field among the Caribbean islands. For instance, we were qualifying, we were just getting there, but in the 80s, when we and I don't think we ever looked back after that.
Oh, okay.
For instance, I remember guys. I remember guys like at that time. Company we had guys like Dillon Felix, Leon Dicoto. Oh my God, I spoke to him the other day. Gabriel Simeon. Yeah, those are guys that you remember who also went to the Olympics.
Yeah, Gabriel Simeon was one who went to the Olympics with you. There is, let me see another comment. Jerry Hopkins, he was a well-rounded athlete who was very disciplined. Physical fitness and training meant a whole lot to Eugene as an athlete, and I was quite often a spectator at some of his training sessions. But here is a very interesting one I want you to comment on after. You may laugh while I'm reading. Hey, Bascom, I would like you to remind Eugene of the famous cross-country competition between Eugene and I. I was ahead in that race coming to Grenville when all of a sudden we met a group of convent girls, and that was St. Joseph Convent, St. Andrews. Once in Grenville, Eugene passed me with flying colors once he saw those convent students. That's interesting, huh?
Well, at those days you had to impress, and Jerry was an easy target to beat at that time because you're in convent and you competed, and then you would have, like, for instance, they would let off everyone like at least 15, 20 minutes ahead of the good ones. So they were like different batches, the groups who got half an hour. So you would still, because most of the people at that time, cross country was more for fun time, to stop, to go to the field with banana, get mango, jump in the river, play as it wasn't actually winning, but when you see the girls, you have to impress, I remember one intercall. I remember the intercall with Livingston and I. Actually, I came last that year. We were coming up at the end, the last 100 meters of that race. It was up the hill to the finish line. The hill, it was actually a 75-degree climb. And coming through, I met Livingston, and I was like, okay, I got to beat you, So I took off, like, past him like busy, like I'm all fresh, good to go. And I went to the corner and stopped.
Okay, Sandra Thomas, so good to see you, Eugene. You're such a well-rounded athlete, Sandra. And obviously, I think this is almost a mini reunion of the old boys and girls of the St. Andrews Anglican Secondary School, SAS, because it would have been many, many years we have not seen the smiling cheeks of Eugene Licorish, and someone told me when I said that I'll have Eugene, they asked me when you spoke to him, is Eugene still the one who always smiling, keep smiling, laughing, Said, yes, that's same Eugene. What it is about that Eugene?
I remember the first person that used to call me, I remember same tricks, Patrick Simmons. I remember he used to call me Crack a Joke growing up, because I was always fine. If I'm serious and tense, I cannot perform. It always have to be. I always have to be jovial, easy, just taking it the moment with joy and happiness at the moment.
Mhm. Right.
So smiling is just this is basically the way I feel inside. Try not to be angry, but to make people, everyone around me feels the same way I feel inside.
Mhm. When you look back, Eugene, and try to refresh your memories, and I'm certain you will do that every now and again, and especially when it comes around to the track and field season in Grenada, what it is that you know what it is that is stuck out in your mind in terms of when you competed back then to what it is now, what it is that you probably see that is probably missing, or what it is that you see
Competition
that.
is basically for in sense of competition. I would think it's the same enthusiasm that the kids have. But for instance, we compete on grass and they compete on synthetic. But with reference to because a few years back I was looking at that intercall games where one of the kids had run a vicious and finish leg for a 4x4. I think he's the son of one of my friends, Reggie Charles. He's one of the kids in school. I think he goes to one of the colleges up here. And he made a run back that reminded me of one of the guys. Goatee had did in a Whitson type games in a 4x1 where he ran a turn leg. And the same impression, the same feeling I got was those guys are good and the kid is good.
Mhm. um Hazel is asking, what advice would you give the upcoming athletes who struggle staying motivated? What it is that probably kept you motivated that you can advise them on?
You have to love the sport. You cannot take it too serious. Like if I'm not achieving at that moment, you give up. There's nothing like giving up. Giving up is just a word. You have to love it and keep pursuing it day by day. And like you usually say, what your day will come.
Mhm,
Train hard and stay the course.
mhm. Okay, and Vida Bruno Victor, one of Grenada's most talented athlete. Glad to see you. So I am saying once again that, so many people seeing you probably for the very first time
Yeah, I've been
in a long
I've
time.
disappeared for the past 30 years. I've just stayed low. Thanks, Peter. Hi, good afternoon. I was in Conrad in a while too, so and remember the Shaman Ross at that time, who was also a member of the Olympic team. You
Mhm,
know, there are so many people that we could, well, we have, if we have enough time, we could reminisce about, and so many different opportunities to talk about great things that happen in sports in Grenada.
mhm. Yeah, well, as you see, the comments are flowing in terms of glad to see you, glad to see you, glad to know that you are wrong. But what it is that what caused the disconnection from competition for Eugene
The,
Licorish?
when you have achieved like you're competing and you compete, you did the character, you did the policing, and over the years you keep repeating the same process over and over. There comes a time that you needed a change. And there were times where in my life where it was a good opportunity to drop out because, for instance, I was not going to make a money by being a track athlete at that time.
Mhm,
And it comes whereby the opportunity that you have to support your family and to develop yourself. So there was a time to step away.
okay. But any sort of regrets that you probably left?
Yes. Well, the only regret I have is that I had not contributed anything for the past few years to when I say contribute physically to the development of sport in Grenada and to the other most of the other athletes, which I would hope that from now on I would try to make an effort to be more involved. But no regrets. Change of life, change of time. At times you have to make decisions on time, but there's no regrets.
Mhm. But would you say that there has been I mean, and as someone, you admitted that you have been in the background for a while, but would you say that you would have seen marked improvement from since back then?
Oh, there are tremendous improvements in the kids.
Mhm.
Tremendous improvement, even towards the way they approach the games. I look at the beginning for the past 6, 7 years. You see the clothing has changed, the professional approach towards the game by the athletes. Then you had, they've been coached by guys who had gained experience over the years. For instance, Leon DeCoto, he helps the kids from the west side. We had guys like Wayne Maxwin who were helping the kids from St. Andrews, and then we had guys in St. George's who had traveled around and seen the development and brought it back and implemented that into the kids. And then up to today, you could see their work.
Mhm. And in conversation with you, and then even prior to that, in with others, the name Goatee Robinson came up a couple times, and somehow Goatee had this, even
Oh,
though even though he was quote unquote the PBC boy, even though he coached guys from the GBSS, he also had some
good,
level of
good.
relationship with the guys from SAS as well.
Goatee and Vida, they used to have a program where they used to come up every Saturday morning and help coaching. As we were speaking the other day, then I get to realize it was a more of a personal effort from those two that came on their own time and devoted. But Goatee was also even involved in the basketball, just the complete organizing of the different groups. Because, for instance, Goatee will come, you will teach you, we will learn in the morning basic stats. You see how it is. Those guys share their experience.
Even though there was a rivalry at that time.
Well, at that time, it wasn't, we weren't even thinking rivalry. We were thinking an opportunity to learn.
That's the level of maturity. That was.
It wasn't rivalry. Rivalry. Those guys had the talent and those guys had the know-how. So you
Mhm,
don't. So it was to learn,
mhm. I wish it was something that could be the
and
same as
and
it is
that's what
now. Mhm.
that's why basically the friendship. Even as you grow old, you get to understand and learn and to respect and understand the effort that people even before I had. For instance, you had Dan Darat. Remember, if you can remember him walking around, he used to be more involved in football, but he used to do a lot of coaching. You had Sergeant Gibbs at that time, who was a police officer. When I went in to the police, he was like, you gotta go run for me. And those are guys also instrumental in my development.
Mhm. Yeah. The late Dandarat then is
Dan
also,
Darat, remember those?
yeah, he also
Okay, I remember one thing he had told me, like, I used to hate to, when I'm running, I used to hate to, like if fall started and go back and run. So one day we ran a hundred, so qualifying, and he was like, "We didn't get the time. We made a mistake, and you would have to run it over." And I got kind of like angry, and he was like, "Young man, you have to learn to repeat. Just relax and just do it." And those are the advice that you get from guys that even though you left track, you still learn from it.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the PBC guys would have recalled the late Gordon, well, Dandarat Ward. Gordon Ward is his correct
Gordon
name.
Ward, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Gordon
most
Ward.
of the guys I will remember them by the.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But well, oh yeah, I know Neil Wells is actually saying it. Yeah, Gordon Ward, the Dandarati, because he was very close to the folks at the PBC. And there's Jerry Hopkins is saying Goatee is one of the most under recognized coaches in Grenada. He was also often at the St. David's Catholic, well, St. David's Secondary School, now the St. David's Catholic Secondary School in the late 70s and early 80s. And uh, in conversation with you, Eugene. Um, you always, and I've tried to get you to recognize your effort, but you always seem to be pulling in someone, the Livingston Nelson, the Roberts, the others. Why so? Why so? it appears that it was always a team effort, even though you're running a 100 meters.
Yeah, it's not about me. It was never about me per se. For me, it was enjoyment, but it was a matter of representing my school, and at the time, it was representing us as country people, because
Mhm.
that was our pride to come down to show that at least we are strong and we are powerful and dominant.
Okay. Let me read some off comments there. Peter Bishop, our country have not done Eugene Licorish right, and we should correct that. Long overdue. And
Yes.
Leon Francis, aka Ding, is saying the guy was a boss. So I assume people still remember you. And some would have heard about the Eugene Licorish. There was a fearsome group of guys,
Well,
the Livingston Nelson, the Eugene Licorish, they
Godfrey Augustine.
Godfrey and surprisingly they said Godfrey is known for the jumps, but Godfrey is also a talented runner. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
Godfrey.
yeah,
Godfrey used to do the Godfrey. I think Godfrey actually started up doing knowing Godfrey. Godfrey used to do the 400
yeah,
or the 200. Godfrey had a style of weighing one long shocks on one leg.
yeah. And something that we spoke about earlier for those who just joining us, the guys were somehow they were the biggest set of guys on the field at the time.
Well, at that time, I was smaller than Godfrey, so it's not a matter of healthy people. As I said,
Mm,
good food, bread, food, banana, fig.
All right, and for those who just join us, and I am, forgive me for keep putting this up because it's not of the best, but I still have to keep putting this up. Uh, you know, and surprisingly, um, it brought back a lot of memories for people at the old Queen's Park.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the old Queen's Park. I'm seeing the broadcast booth in the top left
Well,
hand corner. I'm seeing the some of the photo finish, the
the
time.
photo finishes, yeah.
Yeah, I
My
think at the time you were doing some jumps and throws right in front of the pavilion. You had jumps on one side, and I think you have throws on the other side.
it was that jump. I mean, those days, my I do the long jump, then do the finals. So sometimes when the finals for the 100 is actually going on, I practically had to be jumping. So what I will do, I'll take one jump, go to the 100 heat or finals, and come back and finish jumping. You were actually like a machine. You were practically going all day. And not to cut the fact that it's to the part that the part of the stadium. Remember under the stadium, I think it was that lady. I think she probably might be even related to you that used to sell the
But
snow cone.
yeah, but listen, but this is not the stadium. This is the
I know. Well, I
old
call it the stadium
pub.
because this was back in the day. That was our stadium.
Yeah, well, yeah, the old that's the
We
old
can't call
Queen's
it a
Park.
park anymore. Let's give it some grades.
Yeah, and I think that I should have some photos of the actual setting of the
Oh,
Queen's Park Pavilion before it was actually demolished. Even though it suffered some structural damage during
oh,
you recall during the 1980, what was 82 with the bomb blast. But this was
well,
actually 1983.
not not only the bomb blast to cut you. Not only the bomb blast did some damage. Remember the kids in the school. Every year you'd be on the bleachers, and the bleachers used to be rocking up and down, just
Don't,
jumping. You remember those days?
don't remind us about that.
And that
Especially
bleachers
about,
used to be like all day.
yeah, and earlier you started speaking about this, the 4x1, 4x4, especially I think it's a 4x4 that usually comes almost as the last event. Well, not almost, it was the last event. And many times, you don't know who in front, but you go by how the whoever on the field is jumping or cheering, and then well, it's either GBSS or SAS or
Yeah, it all depends on which crowd you see is going up the highest in the air. You know that they are the guys in front. But it just you all you would be seeing in the dark was just one head just up and down through the crowd. But you would recognize your athlete, you would recognize your friend because remember at that time we were not only competing, we were all friends. So you recognize your friend and you recognize who is going and the enemy as most of all.
Right. The enemy, right? Colin Peters saying good night, Licorice. Great to see you. Um, Hazel is coming back. We need an athletic reunion with past and present athletes. We could learn so much. What say you about that, Licorice? Where the past and present athletes can come together and
Well, there will
discuss, talk.
there will be a time for that in due time, you know. We'll all be I'll be that would be a very nice idea to come together and reminisce like to now and I hope that, I may be invited again to come and come on with a few guys because it would be nice if I would have had other guys like guys from the St. George's region, and then we just do it as a group situation whereby we discuss that idea, the competition, the bickering, the love that we share for each other. And one thing you have learned that life continues because after today, most of my best friends are the people that I associate with. Most of the guys I know from them.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. Well, it was so much a pleasure talking to you. Look how the time, has just gone by, and the time hour.
Oh, time went by.
Yeah, I warned you, once you start going. But
I didn't even start yet.
yeah, but I really want to thank you for being part of the program, Eugene. I know it's your first time,
Yeah.
um, and you have really opened up. And hopefully, some other time we can get to speak again because this is something is a continuous, program where we try to get guys and girls to speak on issues. It's not about attacking anyone or anything like
No,
that.
it's
It's just
that's
about
what that's
it's just
that's what I
about
like about it.
yeah.
The idea of that the camaraderie that we have developed, the development that we have made over the years, and then you get to remember stuff
Mhm.
and people as we talk now. And I remember you mentioned some names that I had practically forgot.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole idea, and you know, um, the some comments I don't want to lose. Those comments, Rondell, Rennie. Um, Nice program, Sekou, great program indeed. Sandra is asking about the how often is the program? Every Thursday and Saturday. Thursday at 6:30, Saturday at 1 p.m. And Joel Phillip is saying, I like that idea, Hazel. I think the present athletes could learn so much from the greats like Eugene and others. Indeed, it's something that, you know, you guys can, get going. And of course, they will want to hear what folks have to say, those who have gone beyond the Eugene, the Aline Francis, Livingston Nelson, so much that you all can share with, the young and prospective athletes.
Well, yeah, I would say thank you for having me on the program this evening, and I appreciate. And every time I'll come around if you need me.
Yeah, okay. Well, great program, Bascom. Keep up there. Yeah, well, that's it's all about the athletes. Deborah Findley Joseph. Hey, Eugene. I guess as much there are folks who are seeing you for the first in a very long, long time, and obviously um, it's all about a smart reunion, and Licorice cannot hold back the smile. Yeah, I need to I need to put it out there. Eugene just like smiling. Um, so the comments are coming in. It was good having me down memory lane. Great program, folks. That's Nelson, Hercules, the Hercules, yeah, Hercules Williams is saying good job, guys. So Eugene, um, let's wrap up the program at least hearing from you. Um, Probably just a word of advice to not just the athletes, because that's indicated you also competed in some basketball and some football to an extent, but generally sportsmen and sportswomen. What sort of advice would you give to them, and especially taking into consideration the extent of the pandemic on sports? So looking forward to probably going into 2021, those who may be affected. um, what advice would you give to them?
Unfortunately, the pandemic has slowed stuff down, but you have to keep training. And for instance, next year is the Olympic, and most athletes will be probably wondering, getting how will we prepare for such an event. You have to do your training on the side. You have to keep your moral up. You have to look for avenues to find the interest to go forward. For the cohorts and the other team, we have to find innovative ways of going forward because we were looking to go back to what used to be. I was thinking, why don't we try to create our own destiny and go forward? For instance, we have the teams. Okay, next year is just now. Why don't we bring all the team together, create a bubble as early, and start training?
Mhm. Gloria is saying, good job, bro. I know you know, you speak a lot about your
Yeah,
siblings
that's
and
my
things like that.
sister.
Right. Can you give us the name so in case we come across, apart from Betty and others, the names
Well,
of
for
the
Betty, we have Frances. She Frances Augustus. She Liquid. She used to teach in McDonald College, and that was a situation whereby when I had to go to SAS, it was a matter. My mother was thinking like the best thing I had to go is to go with my sister to McDonald College. So it was a matter of the from conference whether I go to McDonald College or SAS, but I choose SAS because that's where my friends were. She then I have one of my other sisters, Doreen, that lives in Florida. Then we have Claudia, who used to compete. She teaches in Grenville. Then we have Betty, athlete, teaches also. Then we have Gloria. Well, Gloria, if you would remember, as Jacqueline would remember playing, Gloria was be playing basketball with me in the marketing on Sunday. Because that's who my like runaway partner. We go to the market, run away, play basketball. Then I have other sister, June, which we probably have not mentioned much for the night. She also was an athlete because remember there were invitational games in Trinidad, which she also won national medal. She also competed in the national team. So, for instance, I think we had like four of us competing nationally.
You're the only male within?
Yeah,
You're the only male among.
yeah. I have six sisters. It's like three girls, then me, then three girls.
So you actually sandwich among the girls, and
Yeah.
and as you indicated, they were part of the whole motivational aspect in terms
Well,
of getting.
they're not also my sisters. They're also my best friends.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get the impression because in speaking to you, you mentioned so many times about consulting with your sisters, finding out from your sisters. It's like the
Well,
biggest
when you
sister.
have when you have three at the top and three on the bottom, you know you got to get the protection from all over. To come through, you have to find the permission.
Yeah, well, that's what I was about to say. It seems as if you have to get permission from those on top.
Well, it also helps you to stay grounded and respect, and you find that love among family and is
Mhm.
very important.
Yeah, well, that's good to know. And thank you very much, Eugene, once again. Thank you, sisters, for keeping Eugene grounded. The only male within the family, well, only boy within the siblings. And
And our achieving sisters to because they set the part.
okay, Jerry is saying, did you mention Francisca?
Yeah,
Um,
Francis was the first because actually Francis used to teach Jerry.
okay, so that's why you remember. That's why you're remembering that. Okay, that's good to know. And thank you, Deborah. It's been a pleasure looking and listening. Well done, Mr. Licorish. And I guess that much the folks will be happy to know that Eugene is okay. Eugene is still smiling, still looking as the Eugene when probably he left, migrated Grenada back in 94, 93, 94 back then.
Yeah. Well, I would say thanks to everyone for my friends, everyone well wishers, and I do appreciate the comment, and it was nice being for you to invite me to that program. I would say thanks to everyone out there
Mhm.
who wished me well, and it's nice being back.
Well, nice having you, Eugene. I'm sorry that the time has just run away, but some other
Yeah,
time you will be back, and we'll
I
be.
will. I'm thinking it's just 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I know. That's how it is. But I know it has been a refreshing moment for a lot of folks seeing you and getting to hear from you, knowing that you're fine, and we hope to reconnect with you some other time. Just folks, just as a little housekeeping, on Saturday, we're hoping to have the Michelle Hercules, who will be able to share her story.
Oh, I would say hi to her too. She was a terror the days too. You know what I mean?
We getting to know, a lot of folks who we are seeing that
Oh, not
have not
sorry, not
known
to go.
about.
Sorry, before I have to mention Donald Pierre.
Tell me about Donald Pierre.
As you remember, for the last time, the guys used to call him the bull of the horse. I remember that guy running a 400 and Whitsun Tide. Not only that, to Morris Bull Williams, the guys doing the long distance. And those were inspirational guys back in the day because you were going and you were sure that, okay, let me see how many people Bull will lap today. Or you would see, you look for Pierre running a back stretch in a 400. Those were the good days.
Okay. All right. Well, the good days too was also you competing, and the sort of competitiveness and excitement that you and others, the Livingston Nelson and others, brought to the to track and field in Grenada. It was a whole set of, and as you keep saying, it's not just you, Eugene Licorish, but it was all a team effort. And even though you won the 100 meters, you also felt inspired by the other SAS athletes who were also competing, and it was also a victory for them. Thank you very much once again, and we hope to link up some other time. Thank you for all the memories. And as folks will see, if they go back to the program, they'll be able to see some of the photos with that photo finish in 1983, and also that 100 meters team. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate thank you for being here. And I say good night to all my friends, the well wishers. I appreciate.
Yeah. Okay. Once again, there's appreciation from Eugene Licorish, former Olympian, represented Grenada in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. He also represented Grenada at the 1983 Curved Games, where he won a bronze medal in the long jump. He participated in the long jump actually at the Olympics in Barcelona, and represented Grenada in numerous regional and international competitions, especially as a in law enforcement games. I think he used to have it various Trinidad, Barbados, and he represented Grenada along the likes with Trevor Modeste and Neil Wells and others. Was part of that in those days. Well, join us again on Saturday, hopefully, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, when we speak to no other than Michelle Hercules, one who played and represented Grenada, not just in track, but also in badminton and other sports that you never thought about in terms of those days. And she played just about everything: golf, badminton, squash, table tennis. She competed. She was also a netballer. I mean, there's so much that we can glean from those who blaze the tracks. And when I say tracks, I'm talking about whether it's on the track or on the field, years gone by. And this program is hoping to just bring to the fore these folks who would have competed then, and hopefully to inspire others. And at the same time, we see if we can marry those who are actually competing now. So we had the likes of Kirani James and others prior to that. And, hopefully we get the others like the Aline Francique and others to, share their experience, share what it is made them into what they were in those days. And thank you once again, folks. So once again, 1 o'clock on Saturday is our next program. And then come next Thursday, we should have another exciting program. Someone who will be able to share and recollect some of your memories in terms of sporting exploits for Grenada or the years gone by. Until then, on Saturday, until I see you at 1 o'clock, do join us.